This week, someone threw a Molotov cocktail at Sam Altman's house. A Texas man was arrested with an anti-AI manifesto, and Stanford published data showing that only 10% of Americans are more excited than concerned about AI, compared to 56% of AI experts. These are not unrelated events. Hi, I'm Stephanie Hai, co-founder of KaizenCX, vendor-neutral technology advisor, and doctoral candidate in psychology. And today we're going to talk about what actually connects all of it, because the technology headlines are interesting, but the human behavior underneath them is where the real story lives. Let's get into it. First up, Stanford dropped a report that reframes the entire AI conversation, and this time it's not about benchmarks. Stanford's 2026 AI Index was released last week. Every previous edition reads like a scoreboard. Who's winning, which model is fastest, which benchmark just got broken. This one reads like a thermometer, and the patient is running hot. For the first time, the most important section isn't about capability. It's about trust and how the people building AI and the people living with it have stopped agreeing on basic facts. Here are the numbers. Only 10% of Americans say they are more excited than concerned about AI. Among AI experts, 56%. On medical care, 84% of experts believe AI will improve it. Only 44% of the public agrees. On jobs, 73% of experts say AI will help. Only 23% of the public agrees. That's not a small gap. That's a difference in reality. And it showed up in the most literal way possible this past week. The same week that reports dropped, a man threw a Molotov cocktail at Sam Altman's home in San Francisco. A Texas man was arrested with a manifesto explicitly targeting AI. Altman posted at 3 a.m. that he had underestimated, and I'm quoting him here, the power of words and narratives. For business leaders, this implication is direct. If you are deploying AI inside your organization and assuming your team sees what you see, opportunity, efficiency, progress, you are operating on a false assumption. The trust gap isn't a communication problem to solve with a better rollout email. It runs deeper than that. The lab spent 2 years racing each other on capacity while assuming public trust would catch up automatically. Stanford's data is the receipts that it didn't. Speaking of that trust gap, our second story shows exactly what it looks like inside a company when employees stop believing in the technology being handed to them. Fortune reported this week that 44% of Gen Z workers are actively sabotaging their company's AI rollout. Not passively ignoring it, actively undermining it. Feeding bad data into performance reviews, utilizing unauthorized tools, deliberately generating poor outputs to make AI look less effective than it is. The headlines make it sound like a rebellion. The data make it look like a rational response. Because buried in the same survey, 75% of executives admitted that their company's AI strategy is, and I'm not paraphrasing, more for optics than actual outcome. So employees are sabotaging a strategy that leaders already know is mostly theater. And then it gets more complicated. The same report found that workers who resist AI are actually more likely to be laid off than those who embrace it. 60% of executives are already considering cutting non-adopters. So the thing employees are doing to protect their jobs is accelerating the outcome they're trying to avoid. That's not stubbornness, that's a trap. And most organizations are not doing anything to help their people out of it. The business implication is clear. If your AI rollout is generating resistance, quiet or otherwise, the answer is not better change management messaging. It's genuine co-design, involving the people who will use it in dictating how those tools get deployed. That's not a soft play. That's the difference between a 95% failure rate and actually moving the needle. From the human cost of AI to the financial one. Our third story this week is about what happens when companies hand out AI tools without strategy to match. Companies including Uber, Microsoft, Meta, and Salesforce are now rationing AI access. Not because the tools stopped working, but because the bills arrived and nobody could explain them. Here's the data point that should be in every technology budget conversation right now. Heavy AI users burn roughly 10 times more tokens than mid-level users. Output rose about 2 times. You are not getting 10 times the value, you are getting 10 times the invoice. Uber's CTO reportedly burned through the company's entire 2026 AI coding budget by April. Amazon pulled an internal AI usage leaderboard after employees started chasing token counts instead of doing actual work. One consultant told Axios their client had an employee using an enterprise AI subscription, one their company was paying a premium for. to check the weather. There is a name for this now: token maxing. The corporate habit of maxing out AI usage without ever measuring whether it was producing anything useful. AI has officially entered its expense report era. The business implication is that buying AI tools are easy. Knowing which tools for which tasks, at which tier, for which employee, actually justifying the cost, that is the technology strategy problem. And right now, most companies are solving it retroactively, after the CFO gets involved, after budgets are already gone. The question before your next AI renewal: who actually needs the premium tier versus the lighter model? What are your licenses actually being used for? Is the output growing proportionately to the spend? Do you have governance in place before the bill arrives? The companies winning at AI adoption right now are not spending the most. They are spending the most intentionally. And finally, the biggest strategic move of last week. Google did not just announce a new product at I/O 2026. They announced a fundamentally different idea about where AI belongs in your life. Google I/O this past week was not about a new chatbot. It was about disruption. And Google just made the most consequential disruption argument in the AI race so far. Every app you already use is becoming an agent. Search that monitors apartment listings, price changes, and news stories while you sleep, and updates you when something changes. Workspace that listens to you thinking out loud and turns your rambling voice memos into a structured document. A universal shopping cart that lives simultaneously across Gmail, YouTube, and search. One persistent context across every retailer. Google processes over 3.2 quadrillion tokens per month across its surfaces. 900 million monthly Gemini users, 8.5 million developers building on their models. That is not a chatbot company trying to compete with OpenAI. That is an operating environment being rewired into an agent platform. Here is the strategic difference that matters. The chatbot era asks you to change your behavior, open a new app, learn a new interface, build a new habit. The agent era is being designed so that you don't have to change your behavior at all. The AI appears inside the tools you already open every single day. That is a massive disruption advantage. And it is not about model quality. OpenAI and Anthropic may have stronger models in certain categories, but Google is removing that friction entirely. And in technology adoption, friction almost always is what kills a good idea. For any business evaluating AI tools right now, the question is no longer which AI answers best. It is which AI can turn answers into action inside the systems your team already lives in. Google made a very loud argument that the answer is Gemini. So before we close, every week I pull one thread that connects the stories because the technology headlines tell you what happened. The psychology tells you why it matters and what comes next. Here's the thread I would pull across everything this past week. We are in what I would call a legitimacy crisis for AI, and it is being driven by a psychological dynamic that the industry has almost entirely ignored. The people building and deploying AI have what psychologists call a high internal locus of control around technology. They believe they can shape it, direct it, and benefit from it. They see the capability gap closing between the US and China. They see Google building an agent platform that runs while you sleep. They see a founder building a $1.8 billion company with 2 employees and a stack of AI tools. To them, the future is already here, and it is working. The people being asked to adopt it, frontline workers, the general public, the 90% of Americans outside the expert class, are experiencing something entirely different. High external locus of control. They feel acted upon, surveyed, subject to decisions made above and beyond them by people they have never met, about technology they do not fully understand. That may or may not eliminate the work they have built their lives around. When those two groups occupy the same organization or same society, and neither group understands how the other is experiencing the situation, you get exactly what we have seen over the past week. You get 44% of employees sabotaging the tools their companies are mandating. You get a Stanford report showing that public trust in AI is not just lagging expert confidence, it is moving in the opposite direction. You get a man arrested with a manifesto. You get Sam Altman posting at 3 a.m, admitting to underestimating the power of narratives. Here's what I want you to leave with. Investor Sam Altman published a piece this past week arguing that AI is not primarily a labor crisis. It is a meaning crisis. It breaks the industrial bargain, the one that said work hard and life gets better, and replaces it with two options that are equally disorienting: abundance without purpose or irrelevance. That framing resonates deeply with me because meaning is not optional. It is a fundamental human need. When technology disrupts the primary source of meaning for most working adults, which is their work, you do not get a smooth transition. You get resistance, sabotage, grief, and in extreme cases, violence. The technology is not the problem. The gap between the people with agency over it and the people without agency over it is the problem. And that gap does not close with better change management. It closes with genuine inclusion, bringing the people most affected by AI into the decisions and how AI gets used. That is not a soft observation. That is a variable that determines whether the next decade of AI deployment looks like the IT productivity boom of the 1990s or something much more fractured. And it is why I think the next era of technology leadership is going to require a very different kind of advisor in the room. One who understands the technology and the humans responding to it. That is your Week in Tech. 4 stories, 1 thread, and a lot of questions that do not have easy answers to them yet. If anything we covered today is showing up inside your organization, an AI mandate with no clear path forward, a technology contract that is not delivering, a team that is quietly routing around the tools you just deployed, that is exactly what a free tech review is designed to surface. The link is in the description. 30 minutes, no pitch, just clarity. And don't forget, new episodes every week. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if this was useful, share it with one person in your orbit who needs to hear it. That's the KaizenCX Take. See you next week.